everyone, welcome to my channel, Time for Truth. My name's Christina, and today I'm going to be sharing about my trip to Egypt and the Mediterranean. So I was at the thrift store the other day when I was out running errands, and look what I found. Two amazing cups. Cairo, Egypt, the pyramids, fascinating. So I hope everybody's doing well and having a nice day. We're going to keep it positive today as best we can. So these cups are by 222 Fifth Slice of Life, and it describes Egypt and what these cups are about and world traveling, and yeah, made in Indonesia. And today we're going to enjoy Pellegrino. I was thinking too, are there other people out there who don't use ice? I don't use ice. I'm living in Germany twice. I guess I just learned not to even ask for ice because in a lot of the European countries, they don't just automatically serve ice. And I also have a little lemon that I'm going to give a little swish into my cup. Oh yeah, that is fantastic. Oh, and when I went to turn on the camera, this thing is just blinking and blinking, giving me some random sign, but it wouldn't work. So yes, it'll sit over there blinking during this episode. So let's talk about Egypt. Yeah, I went on a cruise. I said the other day that it was a 14-day cruise. It was not. So Time for Truth, it was actually only a 12-day cruise. Let's see, yeah, 12 days. So I saved all of the things because, like, I was so thrilled to be able to go on a cruise to the Mediterranean. And it was actually leaving out of Barcelona on December 29th of 2010. And it was a, New Year cruise on Royal Caribbean. So the ports that we were going to hit up, and again, in a previous broadcast, I had mentioned there was a huge snowstorm on the East Coast during this time. And so we weren't able to leave from our designated port, but we flew to Barcelona to catch, I guess it was, maybe we were just leaving out of Barcelona. I don't know. I didn't have anything to do with all of these reservations or anything. I was with people who they cruised a lot. In fact, they were on the Anchor and something else club. So this was on the Brilliance of the Seas. Departed from Barcelona. Then we were at sea, then to Palermo, Italy. At sea the next day, the 5th day in Greece. Again on day 6 in Greece. Day 7 at sea. Day 8 we were in Alexandria, Egypt. And this actually coincided with the bombing of the Coptic church, Christian church in Alexandria. And I have a newspaper from that time that talks about the survivor tells of hell. This was at the Coptic church in Alexandria, but we were actually at that time also in Alexandria at port, and so everything changed when that terror attack happened, and security became very tight. The cruise company assigned armed guards for the excursions, of which there were a few, including to the Giza Plateau. But some of those on the cruise ships, you can take an excursion and actually be gone for the time that the ship is in port. And that's what I did, staying at the La Meridian, which is unbelievable view of the pyramids. So there's the little welcome to Egypt. And then this was the view out of the hotel window. And I just happened to snap that photo just because it was breathtaking. And that's become one of my most treasured photos. So that was on January 6th of 2011 that that photo was taken. And unbelievably, for this entire cruise, my luggage never made it to the cruise ship. Yeah, I had, because I'm accustomed to wild things happening, I had packed a carry-on. And in that carry-on, I had maybe 3 basic interchangeable outfits and Uggs. And that's what I wore until I could get to a port to buy something. But there's me riding on a camel out to the pyramids. And unfortunately, I did not have a camera during this time, so I relied on the people that I was with to provide me with photos, and that went as expected with the people I was with. There's the top of the head of the camel I was on. But yeah, fascinating. Here's some of the images on the inside of that, which is kind of like a keepsake. And then the Giza pyramids. Now, I also went to the night show, which was fascinating. But it was a free-for-all once you show your ticket, and all of these people just dispersed into this open area with the Sphinx off to the left and the pyramids up. It was just like, what is happening? And what was happening was that I became separated from my group in this mass influx of people. So I scouted out 2 fairly normal looking people, a couple. I thought I'd be safe, and asked them if I could sit with them. And of course they said yes, and had a wonderful time, not in my own group that I had come with this couple from Australia. And what a show that was, a light and sound show. I think I have a picture of that. Light and sound show. Yeah, this is it. The sound and light show. Is that amazing? And the way that the lights, and then you can see in the crowd where the people are seated right here. And it's just unbelievable. That's the back of the ticket. Ticket. Hello, Egypt. Your real guide to Egypt. The Le Meridian, the hotel, 5 stars, amazing, unbelievable. The service, the food, all of it was just fascinating. I always like to pick up the little travel placards, and over there, they're just like, wow, they really do them right. So if you want to go and see and do things, you can go and do and see things. And I did go to the Egyptian Museum, which was just, all of it is just, I don't even know how to describe everything other than look up YouTube and Egypt and the Giza pyramids and the history of the museums. And when the museums were attacked later through that uprising, unbelievably sad that those treasures were destroyed. Here's the ticket to the Mitrahina. This was to the Saqqara, which was just, yeah, I felt very blessed to be able to go, even if I was with people who were, well, let's just put it this way. They're American, and you could see that they were American from a mile away. All right, and then there's that. This was an outdoor plaza, fascinating view of the area. And, you know, having lived abroad and traveled abroad, you know, I am respectful of other cultures. Here's a mug again. Isn't that awesome? Yeah, Cairo. So yeah, and then Egypt was like the creme de la creme of that trip, in my opinion. Even though we also were in Valletta, which is actually where I was able to get some clothes. Oh, here's a little descriptor of the St. John's Co Cathedral. And I also visited there. That's built into, if I remember correctly, that is built into the rock wall. Let me see what we have here. If there's something in the room, I like to snag it. Here's the Taxi Palermo. This is where they do, again, all of the different sites. If you want to do the little walking tour. We also stopped in Malta and did the walking tour there. This is Palermo. But I did actually get off of the ship so that I could go into town to find out about at least a pair of shoes. And, oh yeah, here it is. This is the Co-Cathedral ticket. Let's see. Standard ticket. This was on January 8th. The St. John's Co-Cathedral Museum and Cathedral. And it actually, I actually bought a really nice postcard book from there, but I sold it on my Etsy shop. So yes, in Valletta, I got off the cruise ship and I had to get some shoes. If you ever are in Valletta, Malta, or Valletta, Italy, right there, look at those shoes. Blue suede, purple, look at that heel. Good Lord. Anyways, it was New Year's. I needed to have shoes. So I bought these before New Year's, and I've worn them a lot. They've got some little snags on the patent leather heel there, but Italian shoes, the bomb diggity. You put on these shoes and you feel like going places. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I got the shoes, and then I was able to deal with not having a suitcase for 13 days on a European trip because I'm resourceful. And there's some little Egyptian, I have some coins too, a bunch of Egyptian coins. And those were kind of neat looking. So let's see what else we did. Then all along here we were on a cruise ship. They'll tell you where you are. I don't think there's any identifying information on this, but right there it tells you all the information of things that you might want to do, what will be happening in that city that day. Also some general information about the actual location. So if you've never been on a cruise ship, I kind of liked it. And then here was the one for Greece. Took a car tour, private car tour around Greece. Dude, it rained. Oh my Lord. I thought we were going to get washed away because it's very mountainous around that island, and the rain was torrential and no place for it to go but downhill. So our driver was superb, but there were some few dicey moments on that tour. And then I'm with people who are kind of retarded as far as their social skills. But anyway, there'll be more about that. Yeah, so more of the little things that I like to grab. This one's all in Italian. So I really enjoyed it. Malta was amazing. Malta. I wasn't expecting Malta to be as amazing as it was. I actually sat out on the deck of the cruise ship as we came into port, and the sun coming up, hitting the fortress that is the port of Malta was just fascinating. And so, yeah, did the walking tour on Malta. And then they have, you know, the activities each day. Palermo, Sicily, we're at sea, tells you the sunrise and the sunset. 2 days in Greece. And then at the in Egypt, when we got to Egypt, that was on January 6th, I believe, was when, actually it was on the 5th. So we pulled into town on the ship on the 5th, having spent the new year going down one of those narrow channels in Italy where that cruise ship was doing whatever it was doing with the captain, not paying attention, and capsized. So I understand how narrow that area is and the dangers of the rocks that are clearly obvious from the top of the deck, fairly close to the ship. So yeah, you hope that your captain is paying attention. So anyways, yes, when the Coptic church shooting happened, the cruise ship basically went on lockdown until things could be assessed as to what the danger was to tourists and visitors. And that's why I really feel for the people right now who are having to get the heck out of the Middle East. So that's a consideration whenever and wherever we travel to, is that things can go south. Just because you're on vacation doesn't mean the rest of the world is. And so I basically learned that doing all the things that I have done, including this vacation, which was absolutely amazing. I felt very blessed to be able to go on that cruise and to see the sights and the sounds, experience, an evening dinner cruise on floating down the Nile River with a belly dancer who was amazing, and other guests who are international. So you never know who you're talking to, where they're from, what story they're going to share with you about, where they've come from, because not always are the excursions unique only to the ship passengers. You could be intermixed with other, tourists or locals even. And that's one thing that I always try to do when I travel is, ask for the locals, what's the best place, where should we go? And my husband and I do that even now. In fact, we have been known to meet people, locals, in cemeteries. Because where else are you going to find out about the local history than in a cemetery? So I got this book when we were, traveling around and doing all of the cemetery research in, first person and trying to figure out what the heck does that mean? What does that mean? Well, this book explains what all of it means when you're 6 feet under and they've left, your last words. In fact, there's a grave over here in the town I live in, and it says something to the effect, I took a picture of it, I should have found it. It says something to the effect of, I grew up here once and left for broader trails, and now I'm back again, and here's where I'll stay. And it doesn't have an end date yet, so they're still alive. There's some funny things in cemeteries, and visiting these old ancient sites, the Neolithic, it's just astounding, the amount of undiscovered history that we still have to discover. So that's my little talk on my 12-day, not 14-day, what was it called? Royal Caribbean? I don't even know. Royal Caribbean International. Brilliance of the Seas. I loved cruising. I thought it was really neat. I wish I would have been more educated about cruising because the people that I was with cruised a lot. And just basically you figured that you must know too, and didn't like questions about why the fish on the carpet go that way and how to find your way back to wherever, what card to take when you're deboarding and which one you don't need. Like, it was just a little haphazard, but it all got worked out, and I ended up getting engaged on the island of Malta. And that was kind of a shocker. I wasn't expecting that because, yeah, it was a surprise. But I said yes, and everybody clapped, so that was that. And then, yeah, I ended up marrying him too. That lasted for about, I don't know, 6 weeks. Yeah, facts. So the lesson in that is if you think things aren't going to go well, they probably are not going to go well. So trust your gut, make a plan, protect your own interests, and, always say yes to a cruise. So we had also gone on a Caribbean cruise, and that was my first experience ever with cruising. So I had no idea what was going on. And there were young adult kids with us on that cruise who also were not interested in sharing information with their guests or me about, the intricacies of cruising. And one of them, no, it was actually a dinner. So in front of everybody that was with us in our group, reminded me that a guest prior to me being on the cruise with them, they had had a guest on a different cruise that packed up her bags and took a flight home during the cruise. So that's what these people were. Whew, yeah. They would actually run somebody right off the ship. Now, I completed all the cruises that I took with these people. But yeah, that's the story on that. And next up, I don't have pictures of the Caribbean cruise because I didn't have a camera at that time and it was all new to me. But I did have a camera for the 5-star castle tour to Ireland. And that I'll be sharing in my next episode because that was really amazing. And I do have photos of that. So I stayed at the Waterford Castle. I stayed at Adair Manor, visited the Guinness house in Dublin, stayed at the Westbury in Dublin, coming and going from Ireland, did a road trip of the Ring of Kerry, stayed at Dromonaland Castle. Fascinating. When you see how those with wealth are able to travel and the places they stay in, it's amazing. I mean, I was just in awe. So I'll be sharing that 5-star castle tour of Ireland in my next episode. And I'm also going to be talking about some other things, just general life things, maintenance items, springtime coming. Be sure to set your clocks forward. I'm sad to say, truly sad to say, that Nancy Guthrie is still missing. I just am... I don't even understand that. So I follow Brian Enton Investigates. He, wow. Yeah, he's good. He's thorough. I trust his information. And he was a reporter when the Gabby Petito murder happened. So be careful out there, ladies. Be careful. Trust your gut. All the time, trust your gut. And, always say yes to the cruise, though. Let people know where you are. And travel when and if you can. Try and stay with your group. It's not good to get separated. But, if you're going to travel, have a plan, especially in a foreign country, because it's not only the people in your own group that can go south on you. It's the whole country, the world at large, that can go south while you're abroad with very little ability to extricate yourself from that dangerous situation. So, I have been a victim witness to gun violence twice in my life, which I'll talk about down the road. But when the cruise ship assigned a security guard to us when we were taking the bus to the Giza Plateau. He was carrying an AR-15, and everybody was calling him Rambo, which I was not a part of that because I understood, quite frankly, the danger that all of us were in, sitting ducks basically on tour buses. And if you want to talk about tour buses in Egypt, oh boy, I suggest you sit on the inside if you want to survive a crash. I don't even know if that's going to help you. These guys, they drive these buses like bats out of hell, okay? Like there is so little regard for human life in these other countries as far as traffic goes, and chaos, complete and absolute chaos in in Cairo, downtown Cairo, Tahrir Square. Went around that. Oh my goodness. Anyways, wild times. Even the tour guide, a wonderful Egyptian lady, she and I connected because we're like normal people. I don't know, not rude like the people I was with. She actually invited me and the people that I was with to dine with her and her daughter who lived in Cairo at the buffet dinner at the Le Méridien. And I ended up gifting her a turquoise bracelet that I had because I didn't have a lot of money at that time. I was like poor, even though I was going on all these amazing adventures. But we actually exchanged addresses, and I think of her often. We were on the bus. We were traveling, and this is what she said to the entire bus. Please avert your eyes from the canal on the left. If you do choose to look over, I'm very sorry for what you will see, and I apologize on behalf of my government. You know what was in the canal? All the things that you would expect in a polluted country that does not care about the environment at all, including dead animals. Yeah. So I keep my eyes wide open when I'm out and about, even in my own little neighborhood, because it's important that we all do that. When nonsense happens, that's when more nonsense happens. And if the nonsense isn't addressed, then we're all living in nonsense. And I choose not to live in nonsense. I choose to do my part to, I pick up trash. If I'm walking, I did it yesterday, the day before, whenever I was at the market. If I'm walking and there's trash right in front of me, I lean down and pick it up. The person walking out of the market as I did that said, that's so good that you do that. I said, it's just habit. We should all make it habit and call out others who, walk by trash or dump their trash. We're seeing a lot of that in Delaware with the new arrivals. So, the old adage, if you see something, say something, and then be prepared for pushback because nobody wants to hear the truth these days. But when traveling in other countries, what I've always been taught to do and learned to do was respect that culture, to respect the people, to mind my business respectfully, to dress appropriately for the culture. I can spot an American anywhere outside of the USA like that. So people, pay attention to the way you present yourself in public when you travel. It does matter. People are watching. We're taking note. And why not get dressed up? Why not? I mean, I was at the dispensary the other day and the girl's like, oh, I love all your rings. I'm like, yeah, thank you so much. I figured, what the heck? I might as well wear them all. And, then she was showing off her rings and it just became a little topic of, jewelry and a connection, a human connection, even if it is over material things. So I didn't really pick up any pieces of jewelry when I was in Egypt, but I did afterward pick up one of the evil eye because I needed it to get away from that gang. So, which I eventually did, but not before getting married on another cruise ship to Bermuda. And I'll talk about that too, which was again a wonderful, amazing cruise. And this time my mom and my daughter were there too. So that made it chef's kiss. And I'll talk about that in a future episode. Travel if you can, even if it's in your own, zip code, so to speak. Get out and about, explore your world, and learn the lessons that, we all need to learn. And that's, how to move about in the world we live in, and to do it safely and to do it to our own enjoyment while picking up after ourselves. So, everybody go forth and conquer. That's what I'm doing, one day at a time. I'm overcoming some challenges in my day-to-day life right now, some frustrations, and I may talk about those. My background is in real estate, commercial management, residential management. I never really got into the sales things because I couldn't pass the I don't know if I ever really tried to pass the real estate license exam. I studied for it twice, but the math really freaked me out. So I still had like residual trauma from not learning my multiplication tables and being whipped by my father because of it. So I kind of stayed away from math jobs. I was very happy when like QuickBooks came out and Skyline Property Management software, so that all the accounts payable and receivable was all done on the system, because then didn't have to do it in my head, which didn't always go well with math. But what goes well in my head is traveling, and now we travel by motorhome when we can, where we can. We scope out the areas where things might be happening that lead us to believe that maybe we shouldn't go there, and we choose someplace else. So always check out where you're going, what's happening currently, and remain aware. And always give feedback. If things aren't right, speak up. I got a call from the University of Maryland Global Campus yesterday. It came through from Hagerstown, Maryland. And the girl on the other end of the line was like, "Oh, hi. I understand that you used to be a student at the University of Maryland Global, and we were wondering if you were interested in re-enrolling." I said, no, I'm not interested in re-enrolling after I wasn't asked back to college after being taken for emergency surgery. She's like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I tell them what happened, and they're shocked. Because what happens now with everybody being so coddled is that nobody's like having to overcome hardship, apparently. Like they're just being coddled of, oh, you want a college degree? Well, come on, we'll give you one. And that's basically how it is. On that note, she said, "Do you want me to take you off of our call list?" I'm like, if you want to, it doesn't really matter if you call again, because you're not the first person who's called me about this, since I called them out on social media too about what they did, and they blocked me on social media. And she said, "Oh, what?" I said, "Oh yeah, I have the sheet. I printed out. They blocked me on X." So I tell on them. But we had a good giggle about it. And she's a basketball player. So then we chatted about, women's basketball. And she's a believer that women's sports are for women, for females, not for men who claim that they're now women, perverts. So yeah, that phone call ended up being very enjoyable, and I wish her all the very best. So on that note, keeping it positive, going to shut it down. I may be back later to talk about the castle trip to Ireland, or the trip to Bermuda, or who knows, may even talk about the HOA and the issues that I'm encountering with them currently, because I live in an HOA and I know about HOAs. So that's it for today. Everybody be safe, take care. Thanks for tuning in and listening to my little chat, and I'll catch you later. Bye.